What if I told you the ride-or-die love story we've all been force-fed for years just blew up in front of a live audience, and the mess is so filthy? Even the courtroom had to take a breath. That's right. You thought you knew Chrissy? Lampkin, you thought Jim Jones had everything under control? Baby, think again. Because Cameron just stepped into the spotlight, not with a mic, but with receipts. And what he's exposing will make your jaw hit the floor. We're talking secret hotel meets, explicit texts, hush money transfers, and a sex scandal so wild it makes love and hip-hop look like Sunday school. So now we have to ask, was Chrissy ever loyal? Did Jim ever have a clue? Or has this whole relationship been one long reality show performance, except this time, the cameras weren't invited and the truth wasn't scripted? Because after what just came out, it's not just reputations that are on the line. We're watching an empire collapse in real time. And guess what? We've got the uncut version. Buckle up, because you haven't heard anything yet. This isn't just tea. This is a whole damn flood. Let's rewind the clock and really talk about what's been brewing behind the glitz and glam of Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's so-called unbreakable bond. Because it turns out the whole foundation might have been built on betrayal, not love. For over a decade, we watched them pose on red carpets, cry on reality shows, and flaunt their ride-or-die energy like they were Bonnie and Clyde. But now, thanks to Cameron, that glossy image is shattered. And what's leaking out from behind the scenes is enough to make your head spin. Forget the jewelry, forget the champagne. Forget the emotional monologues on VH1, because allegedly, while Jim was chasing industry relevance and trying to resuscitate his rap career, Chrissy was busy playing a whole different game, according to insiders close to the courtroom drama. Chrissy wasn't just stepping out emotionally. She was allegedly engaging in a long-term, secret affair with a high-ranking entertainment executive. And this wasn't some drunken one-night stand kind of scandal. No, baby. This was scheduled, strategic, and disgustingly well hidden till now. The meetings, the vacations, the so-called brand retreats, all allegedly funded, documented, and covered up under corporate budgets. And here's where it gets messier. This same executive was reportedly responsible for signing off on several of Jim's late career endorsement deals. That's right. While Jim was celebrating new contracts, he had no idea he might have been shaking hands with the same man warming his woman's sheets. And Cameron, he didn't just drop this info casually. No, he walked into that courtroom with screenshots, timestamps, and a smugness only a man holding the nuclear codes could wear. Word on the street is Cam got hold of a burner phone used for the affair one. That included everything from suggestive messages to full-on hotel receipts and private video clips that were too explicit for even the jury to sit through without reacting. This isn't just a betrayal. It's a full-blown strategic takedown. And the craziest part, okay? Jim didn't even see it coming. He was still calling Cam his brother, still referring to Chrissy as the love of his life, still performing like he wasn't the last one to know. He was in the middle of a reality show with no script and no control. Insiders said when the footage was presented, Jim's whole face changed. That Harlem bravado, gone. That confidence, crushed. That tough guy energy he's always fronted with, it's completely evaporated. And just when you thought it couldn't get more humiliating. The courtroom heard audio messages, leaked voicemails allegedly left by Chrissy to her executive lover. Recorded during the same weeks she and Jim were doing interviews about renewing their wedding vows. You can't make this up. One moment she's on the shade room smiling about love and forgiveness. And the next she's whispering into another man's phone about how she can't wait to get away from this fake life. It was like watching a live-action soap opera unfold, but instead of commercial breaks, we got Cameron smirking in the gallery like he was waiting for someone to thank him for telling the truth. And let's be honest, Cam wasn't just exposing Chrissy. He was also dragging Jim. Not directly, but you didn't need subtitles to catch the shade, because for years Cam has hinted at tension between them, but no one thought it went this deep. This wasn't petty rap beef. This was personal. This was Cam laying it all bare, almost like he'd been waiting for the perfect moment to burn the whole house down. And what a blaze it was. The courtroom was dead silent when the messages played. Reporters leaned in, spectators gasped, and Jim, he sat frozen, probably realizing that not only had he been betrayed by the woman he fought to keep, but by a system that watched it all go down while clapping from the sidelines. And if you think that's bad, wait until you hear what's coming next, because the affair was only part of the story. It's the real damage. It's in what Chrissy and her executive lover were allegedly doing with Jim's name, his money, and his brand. The manipulation didn't stop at the Hotel Dorrit, apparently ran all the way through their joint ventures and into some serious financial moves that might have long-term legal consequences. But before we get into that, let's be very clear this isn't just gossip. This is scandal, sabotage, and reputation destruction on a level we haven't seen since the last time a sex tape ruined a legacy. And it's only just beginning. Because just when you thought the scandal was peaking with Chrissy's alleged affair, turns out that was only scratching the surface. The real chaos. The kind that hits bank accounts, brand deals, and reputations that took decades to build, was sitting quietly in the background until now. See, according to a leak from a disgruntled former financial advisor, Jim Jones had unknowingly signed off on a series of shell companies that funneled his earnings straight into Chrissy's control. And here's where it gets scandalous. One of those shell companies reportedly owned by the very executive she was sleeping with. That's right. While Jim thought he was investing in future real estate and brand expansions, he was actually fueling a secret empire that Chrissy was allegedly building without his knowledge. An empire that didn't include him at the top. Sources close to the case say that funds meant for a joint fashion line were redirected. Deals were renegotiated behind Jim's back. And in one shocking instance, a business registered in both their names was liquidated for a quick payout ... that never made it to Jim's hands. It's like he was financially ghosted while sleeping next to the ghostwriter of his downfall. And it gets even worse. Remember those reality show appearances? The tearful moments? The dramatic "I held you down" speeches? Turns out, some of those on-camera reconciliations were allegedly orchestrated as part of Chrissy's long-term damage control strategy. One anonymous producer claimed she would pitch storylines to spin public sympathy in her favor, knowing full well that behind the scenes, the romance was dead, and the business moves were all hers. The emotional manipulation, mixed with financial deceit, created a perfectly crafted illusion. Jim thought he had a partner. What he allegedly had was a handler. And here's the kicker: Cameron wasn't done yet. Because, apparently, the burner phone he exposed didn't just contain texts and calls. It had access to cloud storage, and in that cloud, videos, emails, even scanned documents linking Chrissy and her executive lover to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. According to one anonymous legal source, the amount of money moved through those accounts in a 2-year period was enough to raise multiple red flags for investigators. And guess whose name was on a few of those transaction trails? Jim Jones. Except not because he was involved, but because his identity was allegedly used without his full consent. Now, we're not just talking betrayal. We're talking about potential identity misuse, financial fraud, and pending investigations that could drag Jim into legal battles he never signed up for. And the worst part? Some fans still think he's complicit. That's what happens when your name is tied to dirty money and dirty secrets. People, stop waiting for the facts. They just assume you're guilty by association. Meanwhile, Chrissy's public image has gone from strong, independent woman to alleged manipulator-in-chief overnight. Memes are going viral. Twitter's a war zone. Instagram blogs are recycling old clips of her arguing with cast members, calling them early warning signs. Fans are no longer asking if it's truth. They're asking how long it's been going on, and every day another detail leaks out. Another source talks. Another piece of the puzzle slides into place. Some even claim there were whispers about Chrissy's behavior as far back as the early 2010s. But no one took it seriously because, well, the love story looked too good to be fake. But now, that illusion has shattered into a million little pieces. And if you think the fans are turning, imagine the business world. Sponsors have allegedly begun pulling out. Jim's name, once attached to street credibility and real hip-hop legacy, is now being flagged in meetings as controversial. A planned tour has reportedly been quietly shelved, not due to low ticket sales, but because venues don't want to be associated with the scandal and Chrissy. She's gone radio silent. No posts, no statements, no explanations. Just silence while the internet burns her name like kindling. But you want to know what's most disturbing about this entire story? It's that the people closest to them are starting to talk. Quietly, anonymously, and with growing boldness. Former friends, assistants, stylists, people who were once cheering them on from behind the scenes are now turning around and saying, "We saw the cracks, we just didn't realize how deep they went." One former intern claims they overheard arguments between Jim and Chrissy that suggested he was being left out of major decisions, even on his own contracts. Another source says Chrissy once bragged about how she knew how to flip a man's empire into her own exit plan. And if that quote is real, then this whole relationship wasn't love, it was a long con with a glamorous wardrobe and a camera crew. And still, the storm hasn't reached its full peak yet, because the legal sharks are now circling. Investigations have allegedly been opened into the finances behind their joint ventures, and subpoenas could be on the table any day now. And as for Jim, he's still publicly silent. But behind the scenes, sources say he's livid, blindsided, and preparing for a media crisis response that could make or break his career. The question isn't whether this scandal ends badly. The question is how many people go down with it. And just when it felt like Jim couldn't fall any lower, the final blow hit harder than anyone expected. You'd think after being humiliated in court, exposed by a former friend, and dragged through the mud by the media, the storm would slow down, but no. This storm wasn't just a one-night thunderclap. It was a full-blown hurricane that tore through everything Jim had built. Because now insiders claim Jim's own legal team has started turning inward, asking questions he never thought he'd have to answer. Why did he sign off on so many contracts he never read? Why were there discrepancies in company ownership, filings? And why, despite all the warning signs, did he continue to trust Chrissy with full access to his financial world? The answers, allegedly, aren't pretty. Some say Jim was warned years ago by business managers and lawyers alike, but ignored the red flags out of loyalty. Others claim he was so emotionally dependent on Chrissy that he couldn't imagine a world where she'd do him dirty. Either way, the narrative now spinning out across social media is clear. Jim Jones, the street-smart hustler from Harlem, just got hustled. But here's where the final twist drops. Chrissy's alleged executive lover, he's gone missing from the public eye. His accounts wiped, his name redacted from multiple press releases, and rumor has it he's already lawyered up. Some sources believe he's bracing for criminal charges. Others think he cut a deal and vanished before the real heat landed. Whatever the truth is, one thing is clear. This isn't just a messy breakup. This is a blueprint for how power, fame, and blind trust can explode in spectacular fashion. And now Jim is left alone in the ashes with a legacy that's not just cracked, but possibly beyond repair. His music career frozen, his brand endorsements drying up. Even longtime collaborators are allegedly distancing themselves, afraid of getting caught in the fallout. And Chrissy, well, despite the radio silence, reports suggest she's trying to quietly pivot behind the scenes, looking for new opportunities, possibly overseas. Far from the scandal that bears her name, but the internet never forgets, and neither does the IE. Culture. What was once a power couple is now a cautionary tale. And the worst part? We still don't know if we've reached the end. More leaks could surface. Legal proceedings might open up. Someone might talk. And if the rumors of wire fraud and money laundering have any truth to them, then this story could jump from gossip blogs to federal courtrooms real fast. So now the world watches, waiting for Jim to speak, waiting for Chrissy to return, and wondering what Kamran's next move will be, because if there's anyone who still has more tea to spill, it's the man who lit the match in the first place. In the end, this wasn't just a relationship unraveling, it was a public implosion of trust, loyalty, and brand. And while the dust settles and reputations remain in ruins, we're all left asking the same question. How did it go so wrong? For two people who swore they had it all figured out. So now that the truth has spilled out like a drink on a white carpet, the only question left is, what happens next? Does Jim Jones try to rebuild from the ashes of humiliation? Can Chrissy ever clean her image after this tidal wave of scandal? Or is this just the beginning of an even darker, dirtier saga waiting to unfold behind the next locked phone or sealed document? You've seen the receipts. You've heard the voicemails. You've watched the empire collapse in slow motion. But now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you believe Chrissy was really playing chess while Jim was playing himself? Was Kamran doing this out of loyalty to the truth? Or was this personal revenge cooked low and slow for years? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because, let's be honest, the real jury is watching from their phones. And don't hold back. Are you still Team Jim? Team Chrissy? Or team they both knew what they were doing and now karma's at the door? We want to hear it all. And if you're still trying to recover from the emotional damage of this explosive expose, don't worry, we've got plenty more where that came from. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready, because we're not done dragging the truth out of the celebrity closet just yet. There are more lies to uncover, more fake love stories to burn down, and more receipts coming in. Hot. So buckle up, stay loud in those comments, and remember, in the world of fame and filtered love, nothing stays hidden forever. You thought this was wild? Baby, we're just getting started.